says that I sent it.
This thing.
Yeah.
I thought you said... Oh! I thought we were doing it on your thing before. I mean, I thought we were doing it on your thing today, and then we would just shift 3 over.
No.
Okay.
No, we're going to do it on this new channel now. Hi.
Oh, hello, new channel.
We're just figuring out things because we're really
Extreme
smart
basics.
at this. So we started a new channel.
Here it is.
Just for this. Welcome.
Hiyo.
And I have to figure out how to move those old videos.
Just so it's all consolidated.
Yeah, I know.
Very like anal retention.
I just thought it would be really easy, and it's not.
I like that you thought that. I like that you were like, you know what? This would be easy.
I just think there'll be like buttons. It'll just be like beep beep, drag and drop.
That's my nephew's big thing.
Really?
He's like,
and then he acts it out though too, doesn't he? He's like, it's heavy.
he's like, yeah. Today he literally was like, he full bodied it to the point where my dad was like, are you okay? Because he looked like he was about to combust.
He's such an actor.
He's extremely dramatic.
Yeah.
And
too.
He's true. And he has like impulses that like it goes to his bones. I mean, you've seen those like weird like,
and he does cold really well. He plays cold better than I do.
Better than Leonardo DiCaprio. Seriously.
Yeah, really.
Which I think is the gold standard.
It is.
That's not acting.
Although I
just want to say neither have I, but it's not acting. I think it's
to act
really
is to not act.
easy to define. I just mean if you actually go to the Arctic and eat actual...
It wasn't the Arctic. It was Calgary. It was Canada.
The Arctic.
Yeah.
And fucking freeze in the snow, then you're not acting. I know that the whole movie is not him being cold.
The other thing about that too,
that.
because I worked in Calgary, and then some people, because it's like a small town, it's a small filming town, a lot of people actually worked on The Revenant with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had all these stories about working with him. Mm-hmm. And so the joke is he was out there in the wilderness, like, suffering. But then he also insisted on having this, like, fancy-ass trailer tent for all his family and girlfriends or whatever that was, like, fully decked out and suited up. So I don't know if that was, like, just for the benefit of his friends or whether he would be, like, out there struggling and then go back to, like, his trailer with a fireplace and a hot tub. I don't know what was in it.
Definitely a hot tub.
Yeah. And it was also very concerned about the oil production in Calgary and the environment. And then again, not thinking about how
his
much...
giant trailer.
Exactly.
What about the hot tub, dude?
I don't know if there was a hot tub.
What about your fucking hot tub? What about your goddamn hot tub?
Yeah, Leo. What about it?
I'm pretty sure he's watching.
Imagine Leo's like in social. He's like, what do I do?
I can't think. I can't think of a single thing to do.
Maybe I'll go here. I don't know how he would find it.
I don't know. How's anyone finding this?
I don't know.
I'm sending it through. I'm not just farting around on my phone.
Oh, you're sending it to people?
I'm sending it to it's really my family.
Yeah, that's the only people. Those are the only people who have.
Who else matters?
No
one. This is scintillating to watch, isn't it?
I know. It's just us on our phones. Amazing.
I guess I'm sending it to my brother.
I'm going to send it to my family. I don't know who's going to watch this. I don't think my family's going to know how to open it, though.
You just click it.
You've seen my mother.
Yes.
Her clicking, she doesn't know how to click. Because click means one, singular, click. She goes,
she does?
Yes! And I have to be like, gently.
Your mom is great.
She's great. I was trying to help my dad upload something to Dropbox today, and that's very complicated.
It is.
You quickly become aware of how succinct and clear you need to be with your instructions, especially when you're not there in the room and you're trying to get him to interact with a screen that you cannot see.
This is like teaching yoga.
Yes.
So hard.
Yeah, that's great. It's exactly like that.
You're like, okay, just wherever you are, stop waiting. At least that's how I teach yoga. My friend April wants to recommend that we do a classic written by a woman next time. Should I tell her that there are no classics written by women? That's one of the things that makes it a classic.
What would be the classic? It would be Jane Austen, any of the Brontes.
I really can't stand this idea of classic. It's just a very problematic idea. The classics.
Okay.
Because it's all like...
It's all European.
It's all white people. It's all dead people. It's almost all men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why.
Because women didn't know how to write. They
Yeah.
weren't allowed that.
They don't know how to read. They don't know how to write. You think there's something. When you see them, you think maybe there's something there. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
That is... Oh, yes, Frankenstein. That's a good idea.
Oh, I've never actually read that.
That's the whole point!
What? I mean, I was talking to my... This is a woman, right? I am almost positive I never was ashamed I don't know this.
Live stream is supposed to be both.
Yeah, this is the time to do it. It's not embarrassing. But Ayn Rand is a woman, right?
Yes! Unfortunately.
I was talking to my dad about reading that today.
Because
Because everyone has opinions about it, and no one has read it.
People have read it.
Who? Aaron.
Almost everyone that I get into arguments with.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's why I have it. I was like, okay. That was the whole story.
And then you never read it?
No,
I
because I
bought
don't
it.
fucking want to read it. I didn't buy it. I got it
bought
like
it.
for 99 cents on... For 99 cents on, you know, the Book Monster. April, I don't know how to help you with this. My friend cannot find us on YouTube on her computer.
This is a common problem, April. Did you send her... Can you just copy and paste that?
Yes, I did, but...
No, I'm talking to April now as if she can hear me.
She can. Are you listening? Are you listening? Oh, okay. I don't know. This is a problem. It's a problem I can't solve.
I think if you like... Wait, what would you look up? I'm not sure.
You can read
If
what
you
she
copy
says.
and paste that. I can't find you on my stream cuts off when I try to message here. Oh, shoot.
She might be using a touch tone phone. That might be part of the problem. What do they call these? Rotary? What are those phones called?
Do you have a rotary phone?
Is it a rotary?
Yeah.
Sounds so wrong.
Because it does a rotoration.
Yeah, a rotoration.
She supports us in our quest to read boring books by dead Russian men.
Okay, you know what?
I mean,
Maybe she should listen to the commentary.
yeah, that's right. Like,
You're assuming that
there's
we read
two
it.
women for this one guy. Tolstoy.
Yeah.
Like, there's nary a man here. I recommend Mrs. Dalloway. I've never read that. Okay, for next time. Well, we have a ways to go. Till next time.
We've got a ways to go till next time. That's what you just said. said it again.
April, we can text your friend.
What do you mean we can text your friend?
If she can't text her the link, we can text her.
Who's she? This is April.
I thought she said her friend can't find it. Or she can't. You
She
said
can't.
my friend.
Yeah, my friend.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Now
I thought she was like recommending us. I got excited.
I think Allie did on her Facebook. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Are we doing a recap?
Yes, I think that's necessary. I think that's necessary for me.
Okay.
Someone died.
It's all parties.
I'm so excited.
Who died? Oh.
That's the whole big thing.
Excuse me. Sorry.
There was another party, a name day party, which I like much better than a birthday party.
Name day?
Name day. Come celebrate my name day.
Let's throw you a name day party.
Maybe it's different from birth because you wait a while to get your name.
So it's like you're celebrating your christening?
Maybe.
Cool.
What happened? Oh, there was a fantastic scene between Anna Mikhailov. No, not Anna. Katish and Prince Vasily.
Mm-hmm. Who are like part of the legitimate airline to this Buzhukov guy.
So the count for some reason money of anyone. And what else?
And so Boris and his mother wanted.
Yeah.
It's all just gone to Pierre.
Yes.
Is the
So
implication.
Bezhukov changed his will that all his money would go to his illegitimate son.
Seems very unlikely.
And then at the very last minute, they found this out and tried to stop it.
That's Vasily.
It was too late.
Right.
And so Catherine, Katish, the eldest princess, is very upset with Anna Mikhailovna now, and probably Pierre too.
She hates Anna Mikhailovna.
Yeah, for real. And then part of Anna Mikhailovna's meddling is because she knows that Pierre and Boris, her son, are friends. So she's like, great, Pierre, now you have all this money. And you remember how I was there for you during the funeral?
Like yesterday and the day before?
So, like, do me the solid. And
Which is just like,
I
remember.
don't even know what she needs the money for. Like, why does Boris need all this money? I know they're going off to the army. It's something related to that. He needs money. Who doesn't?
She's very poor. But then she just got
But
some
she's
money
a
from
princess.
somebody else.
I think that was the Countess.
Yeah.
I think that was someone else. I
What do you
remember
mean?
that weird scene.
What do you mean someone else? Rostov.
Yes. Oh, she's good. Okay, so that's where we're at. The count just passed.
This is chapter 25.
That's right.
At Bald Hills, Prince Nicholas Andreevich Bolkonsky's estate, the arrival of young Prince Andrew and his wife was daily expected. But this expectation did not upset the regular routine of life in the old prince's household. General-in-Chief... Good morning. General-in-Chief Prince Nicholas Andreevich, nicknamed in society the King of Prussia, ever since the Emperor Paul had exiled him to his country estate, had lived there continuously with his daughter, Princess Mary, and her companion, Mademoiselle Bourienne. Though in the new reign he was free to return to the capital, he still continued to live in the country, remarking that anyone who wanted to see him could come the 100 miles from Moscow to Bald Hills, while he himself needed no one and nothing. He used to say that there are only two sources of human vice, idleness and superstition, and only two virtues, activity and intelligence. He himself undertook his daughter's education, and to develop these two cardinal virtues in her, gave her lessons in algebra and geometry till she was 20, and arranged her life so that her whole time was occupied. He was himself always occupied, writing his memoirs, solving problems in higher mathematics, turning snuff boxes on a lathe, working in the garden, or superintending the building that was always going on at his estate. As regularity is a prime condition facilitating activity, regularity in his household was carried to the highest point of exactitude. He always came to table under precisely the same conditions, and not only at the same hour, but at the same minute. With those about him, from his daughter to his serfs, the prince was sharp and invariably exacting, so that without being a hard-hearted man, he inspired such fear and respect as few hard-hearted men would have aroused. Although sorry, I have a thing break here, but what if our things don't?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Oh, is it a break now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Although he was in retirement and had now no influence in political affairs, every high official appointed to the province in which the prince's estate lay considered it his duty to visit him and waited in the lofty antechamber just as the architect, gardener, or Princess Mary did, till the prince appeared punctually to the appointed hour. Everyone sitting in this antechamber experienced the same feeling of respect and even fear when the enormously high study door opened and showed the figure of a rather small old man with powdered wig, small withered hands, and bushy gray eyebrows which, when he frowned, sometimes hid the gleam of his shrewd, youthfully glittering eyes.
On the morning of the day that the young couple were to arrive, Princess Mary entered the antechamber, herself with trepidation and repeating a silent prayer. Every morning she came in like that, and every morning prayed that the daily interview might pass off well.
An old powdered manservant who was sitting in the antechamber rose quietly and said in a whisper, "Please walk in."
Through the door came the regular hum of a lathe. The princess timidly opened the door, which moved noiselessly and easily. She paused at the entrance. The prince was working at the lathe, and after glancing round, continued his work.
The enormous study was full of things evidently in constant use. The large table covered with books and plans, the tall glass-fronted bookcases with keys in the locks, the high desk for writing, while standing up, on which lay an open exercise book, and the lathe with tools laid ready to hand and shavings scattered around, all indicated continuous, varied, and orderly activity. The motion of the small foot shod in a Tartar boot embroidered with silver, and the firm pressure of the lean, sinewy hand showed that the prince still possessed the tenacious endurance and vigor of hardy old age. After a few more turns of the lathe... What's a lathe?
It's like a cutting thing, like
A knife?
No. Let me.
I just want... because there's so much of it.
You were like, one lathe I can let go. Two lathes, Ian.
Ooh.
Oh no, it's not.
Oh, what is it?
So super. Oh no, yeah, it kind of is. So I think that the old school. It's a machine tool that rotates a workpiece about an axis of rotation to perform various operations such as cutting, sanding, drilling,
Knurling.
deformation, facing,
Okay.
and turning.
Okay.
But I think you know
Fancy
those
machine.
like the like old school drawings of death, in like a black hood. It's got that like thing with like a flat
That's a
blade.
scythe.
Why did I think those were similar? Because of the cool. Where were we?
Oh yeah, and that was after a few more turns of the lathe. He removed his foot from the pedal, wiped his chisel, dropped it into a leather pouch attached to the lathe, and approaching the table, summoned his daughter. He never gave his children a blessing, so he simply held out his bristly cheek, as yet unshaven, and regarding her tenderly and attentively, said severely,
Quite well. All right then, sit down. He took the exercise book containing lessons in geometry written by himself and drew up a chair with his foot.
For tomorrow, said he, quickly finding the page and making a scratch from one paragraph to another with his hard nail.
The princess bent over the exercise book on the table.
Wait a bit, here's a letter for you, said the old man suddenly, taking a letter addressed in a woman's hand from a bag hanging above the table, onto which he threw it.
At the sight of the letter, red patches showed themselves on the princess's face. She took it quickly and bent her head over it.
From Heloise, asked the prince with a cold smile that showed his still sound, yellowish teeth.
Yes, it's from Julie, replied the princess with a timid glance and a timid smile.
I'll let 2 more letters pass, but the third I'll read, said the prince sternly. I'm afraid you write much nonsense. I'll read the third.
Read this if you like, father. I've got no idea what's going on, said the princess, blushing still more and holding out the letter.
The third! I said the third! Cried the prince abruptly, pushing the letter away, and leaning his elbows on the table, he drew toward him the exercise book containing geometrical figures.
I thought he was not into superstition, but well, madame, he began, stooping over the book close to his daughter and placing an arm on the back of the chair on which she sat, so that she felt herself surrounded on all sides by the acrid scent of old age and tobacco which she had known so long. Now, madam, these triangles are equal. Please note that the angle ABC...
The princess looked in a scared way at her father's eyes glittering close to her. The red patches on her face came and went, and it was plain that she understood nothing, and was so frightened that her fear would prevent her understanding any of her father's further explanations, however clear they might be. Whether it was the teacher's fault or the pupils, this same thing happened every day. The princess's eyes grew dim, she could not see and could not hear anything, but was only conscious of her stern father's withered face close to her, of his breath and the smell of him, and could think only of how to get away quickly to her own room to make out the problem in peace. The old man was beside himself, moved the chair on which he was sitting noisily, made out vehement, but vehement, thank you, almost always did become vehement, scolded, and sometimes flung the exercise book away.
The princess gave the wrong answer.
Well, now, isn't she a fool? Shouted the prince, pushing the book aside and turning sharply away, but rising immediately, he paced up and down, lightly touched his daughter's hair, and sat down again. I'm terrified of this man.
What is happening? He drew up his chair and continued to explain.
This won't do, princess, it won't do, said he, when Princess Mary, having taken and closed the exercise book with the next day's lesson, was about to leave. Mathematics are most important, madame. I don't want to have you like our silly ladies. Get used to it and you'll like it. And he patted her cheek. It will drive all the nonsense out of your head.
Cool. I just feel like pointing out that apart from this wildly dysfunctional relationship and the latent misogyny, that he's a prince and she's a princess and she's his daughter. So how am I supposed to get any bearings in this world?
That's what I mean. I think there are I'm not sure, but I think there are no kings or queens. I think everyone's just prince, princess.
Okay, even if there's no kings and queens, does prince or princess have literally any meaning? Because it feels like no.
I have no idea. This could be something that we look up.
Could it?
It could.
Should it?
That is up for us to decide.
She turned to go, but he stopped her with a gesture and took an uncut book from the high desk.
Here's some sort of key to the mysteries that your Heloise has sent you. Religious, I don't interfere with anyone's belief. I have looked at it. Take it. Well, now go.
Go. He patted her on the shoulder and himself closed the door after her.
Princess Mary went back to her room with a sad, scared expression that rarely left her, and which made her plain, sickly face yet plainer. She sat down at her writing table, on which stood miniature portraits, and which was littered with books and papers. The princess was as untidy as her father was tidy. She put down the geometry book and eagerly broke the seal of her letter. It was from her most intimate friend from childhood, that same Julie Karagina, who had been at the Rostovs' name day party.
Julie wrote in French.
Dear and precious friend, how terrible and frightful a thing is separation. though I tell myself that half my time and half my happiness are wrapped up in you, and that in spite of the distance separating us, our hearts are united by indissoluble bonds. My heart rebels against fate, and in spite of the pleasures and distractions around me, I cannot overcome a certain secret sorrow that has been in my heart ever since we parted. Why are we not together as we were last summer, in your big study, on the blue sofa, the confidential sofa? Why can I not now, as 3 months ago, draw fresh moral strength from your look, so gentle, calm, and penetrating, a look I love so well and seem to see before me as I write?
Having read thus far, Princess Mary sighed and glanced into the mirror, which stood on her right. It reflected a weak, ungraceful figure and thin face. Her eyes, always sad, now looked with particular hopelessness at her reflection in the glass. She flatters me, thought the princess, turning away and continuing to read. But Julie did not flatter her friend, the princess's eyes, large, deep, and luminous. It seemed as if at times there radiated from them shafts of warm light, was so beautiful that very often, in spite of the plainness of her face, they gave her an attraction more powerful than that of beauty.
But the princess never saw the beautiful expression of her own eyes,
This is really weird.
the look they had when she was not thinking of herself. As with everyone, her face assumed a forced, unnatural expression as soon as she looked in a glass. She went on reading.
All Moscow talks of nothing but war. One of my 2 brothers is already abroad, the other is with the Guards, who are starting on their march to the frontier. Our dear Emperor has left Petersburg, and it is thought intends to expose his precious person to the chances of war. God grant that the Corsican monster who is destroying the peace of Europe may be overthrown by the angel whom it has pleased the Almighty in his goodness to give us as sovereign. To say nothing of my brothers, this war has dragged so in my heart. I mean young Nicholas Rostov, who with his enthusiasm could not bear to remain inactive and has left the university to join the army. I will confess to you, dear Mary, that in spite of his extreme youth, his departure for the army was a great grief to me. This young man, of whom I spoke to you last summer, is so noble-minded and full of that real youthfulness which one seldom finds nowadays among our old men of 20. And particularly, he is so frank and has so much heart. He is so pure and poetic that my relations with him, transient as they were, have been one of the sweetest comforts to my poor heart, which has already suffered so much. Some day I will tell you about our parting and all that was said then. That is still too fresh, too soon. Ah, dear friend, you are happy not to know these poignant joys and sorrows. That's presumptuous. You are fortunate, for the latter are generally the stronger. I know very well that Count Nicholas is too young ever to be more to me than a friend, but this sweet friendship, this poetic and pure intimacy, were what my heart needed. But enough of this. The chief news about which all Moscow gossips is the death of old Count Bezhukov and his inheritance. Fancy. The 3 princesses have received very little, Prince Vasily nothing, and it is Monsieur Pierre who has inherited all the property and has besides been recognized as legitimate, so that he is now Count Bezhukov and possessor of the finest fortune in Russia. It is rumored that Prince Vasily played a very despicable part in this affair and that he returned to Petersburg quite crestfallen.
I confess I understand very little about all these matters of will and inheritance, but I do know that since this young man, whom we all used to know as plain Monsieur Pierre, has become Count Bezhukov and the owner of one of the largest fortunes in Russia, I am much amused to watch the change in the tone and manners of the mammas burdened by marriageable daughters, and of the young ladies themselves toward him, though, between you and me, he always seemed to me a poor sort of fellow. As for the past 2 years, people have amused themselves by finding husbands for me, most of whom I don't even know. The matchmaking chronicles of Moscow now speak of me as the future Countess Bezhukova. But you will understand that I have no desire for the post. Apropos of marriages, do you know that a while ago, that universal auntie, Anna Mikhailovna, told me, under the seal of strict secrecy, of a plan of marriage for you? It is neither more nor less than with Prince Vasili's son Anatole, whom they wish to reform by marrying him to someone rich and distingué. And it is on you that his relation's choice has fallen. I don't know what you will think of it, but I consider it is my duty to let you know of it. He is said to be very handsome and a terrible scapegrace. That is all I have been able to find out about him.
But enough of gossip. I am at the end of my second sheet of paper, and Mama has sent for me to go and dine at the Apraxins. Read the mystical book I am sending you. It has an enormous success here. Though there are things in it difficult for the feeble human mind to grasp, it is an admirable book which calms and elevates the soul. Adieu. Give my respects to Monsieur, your father, and my compliments to Mademoiselle Bourrienne. I embrace you as I love you. Jules.
P.S. Let me have news of your brother and his charming little wife.
The princess pondered a while with a thoughtful smile, and her luminous eyes lit up so that her face was entirely transformed. Then she suddenly rose, and with her heavy tread went up to the table. She took a sheet of paper, and her hand moved rapidly over it. This is the reply she wrote, also in French.
Dear and precious friend, your letter of the 13th has given me great delight. So you still love me, my romantic Julie? Separation, of which you say so much that is bad, does not seem to have had its usual effect on you. You complain of our separation. What then should I say if I dared complain, I who am deprived of all who are dear to me? Ah, if we had not religion to console us, life would be very sad. Why do you suppose that I should look severely on your affection for that young man? On such matters I am only severe with myself. I understand such feelings in others, and if never having felt them, I cannot approve of them, neither do I condemn them. Only it seems to me that Christian love, love of one's neighbor, love of one's enemy, is worthier, sweeter, and better than the feelings which the beautiful eyes of a young man could inspire in a romantic and loving young girl like yourself.
Count reached us before your letter and was much affected by it. He says the Count was the last representative but one of the great century, and that it is his own turn now, but that he will do all he can to let his turn come as late as possible. God preserve us from that terrible misfortune.
I cannot agree with you about Pierre, whom I knew as a child. He always seemed to me to have an excellent heart, and that is the quality I value most in people. As to his inheritance and the part played by Prince Vasili, it is very sad for both. Ah, my dear friend, our divine Saviour's words, that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God, are terribly true. Because she's not privileged. Anyway, I pity Prince Vasili, but am still more sorry for Pierre, so young and burdened with such riches. To what temptations he will be exposed. If I were asked what I desire most on earth, it would be to be poorer than the poorest beggar. 1,000 thanks, dear friend, for the volume you have sent me and which has had such success in Moscow. Yet since you tell me that among some good things it contains others which our weak human understanding cannot grasp, it seems to me rather useless to spend time in reading what is unintelligible and can therefore bear no fruit. I never could understand the fondness some people have for confusing their minds by dwelling on mystical books that merely awaken their doubts and excite their imagination, giving them a bent for exaggeration quite contrary to Christian simplicity. Let us rather read the epistles and gospels. Let us not seek to penetrate what mysteries they contain, for how can we, miserable sinners that we are, know the terrible and holy secrets of providence while we remain in this flesh, which forms an impenetrable veil between us and the eternal? Let us rather confine ourselves to studying those sublime rules which our divine Savior has left for our guidance here below. Let us try to conform to them and follow them, and let us be persuaded that the less we let our feeble human minds roam, the better we shall please God, who rejects all knowledge that does not come from him. And the less, I can tell you love what she is preaching.
Me?
And the less we
I can tell you love what she's preaching.
I'm like, yes, let us not question what the Savior would have us do.
I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. The less we seek to fathom what he has pleased to conceal from us, the sooner will he vouchsafe its revelation to us through his divine
Mm. Mm. So true. Oh, that's not the end of it. My father, this is a long letter.
Very long.
Really?
I mean, I will say, for someone who has such a feeble mind, I don't think I could write a letter such as this.
Yeah, she seems to at least have a grasp on what she refuses to have a grasp on. My father has not spoken to me of a suitor, but has only told me that he has received a letter and is expecting a visit from Prince Vasily. In regard to this project of marriage for me, I will tell you, dear sweet friend, that I look on marriage as a divine institution, no kidding, divine institution to which we must conform. However painful it may be to me, should the Almighty lay the duties of wife and mother upon me, I shall try to perform them as faithfully as I can, without disquieting myself by examining my feelings towards him who he may give me for husband.
I have had a letter from my brother, who announces his speedy arrival at Bald Hills with his wife. His pleasure will be but a brief one, however, for he will leave us again to take part in this unhappy war into which we have been drawn. God knows how or why. It is not for us to question. Not only where you are at the heart of affairs and of the world is the talk all of war, even here amid field work and the calm of nature, which townsfolk consider characteristic of the country. Rumors of war are heard and painfully felt. My father talks of nothing but marches and counter-marches, things of which I understand nothing. And the day before yesterday, during my daily walk through the village, I witnessed a heart-rending scene. It was a convoy of conscripts, enrolled from our people and starting to join the army. You should have seen the state of the mothers, wives, and children of the men who were going, and should have heard the sobs. It seems as though mankind has forgotten the laws of its divine Savior, who preached love and forgiveness of injuries, and that men attribute the greatest merit to skill in killing one another.
You, friend, Savior and his most holy mother, their holy and all-powerful care, Mary.
Ah, you are sending off a letter, princess. I have already dispatched mine. I have written to my poor mother, said the smiling Mademoiselle Bourienne rapidly, in her pleasant, mellow tones and with guttural R's. She brought into Princess Mary's strenuous, mournful, and gloomy world a quite different atmosphere, careless, light-hearted, and self-satisfied.
Princess, I must warn you, she added, lowering her voice and evidently listening to herself with pleasure, and speaking with exaggerated... What?
Grassiment? Or it's either that or it's grassiment. Grassiment.
I need this word. I need it.
Whatever it is, it's exaggerated.
It's not in the dictionary. Cool. The prince. I'm going to do it without knowing what it is.
Okay.
The prince has been scolding Michael Ivanovich. He is in a very bad humor, very morose. Be prepared.
Dear friend, replied Princess Mary, I have asked you never to warn me of the humor my father is in. I do not allow myself to judge him and would not have others do so.
The princess glanced at her watch and, seeing that she was 5 minutes late in starting her practice on the clavichord, went into the sitting room with a look of alarm. Between 12 and 2 o'clock, as the day was mapped out, the prince rested and the princess played the clavichord. They have a cool life.
They're always called Mary.
Everyone's
those
called...
characters.
Yeah.
The like churchly ones.
Yeah.
Mary. Like it makes me think of. Did you like Pride and Prejudice?
Mm-hmm. She's the
sister that
she's
everyone
the one that everyone's
hates.
like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 26.
I love how it's still meeting new characters.
You know,
I love.
I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, I suspect.
Chapter 26.
Yeah.
The gray-haired valet was sitting drowsily listening to the snoring of the prince, who was in his large study. From the far side of the house, through the closed doors, came the sound of difficult passages, 20 times repeated, of a sonata by Dussek.
Just then, a closed carriage with another with a hood drove up to the porch. Prince Andrew got out of the carriage, helped his little wife to alight, and let her pass into the house before him. Old Dickon wearing a wig, put his head out of the door of the antechamber, reported in a whisper that the prince was sleeping and hastily closed the door. Tikhon, how would you say that?
Tikhon. Tikhon?
Tikhon.
Tikhon. I'll go with whatever you say.
Tikhon.
Tikhon.
Tikhon knew that neither the sun's arrival nor any other unusual event must be allowed to disturb the appointed order of the day. Prince Andrew apparently knew this as well as Tikhon. He looked at his watch as if to ascertain whether his father's habits had changed since he was at home last, and, having assured himself that they had not, he turned to his wife.
"He will get up in 20 minutes. Let us go across to Mary's room," he said.
The little princess had grown stouter, no kidding, during this time, but her eyes and her short, downy, smiling lip lifted when she began to speak just as merrily and prettily as ever.
"Why, this is a palace," she said to her husband, looking round with the expression with which people compliment their host at a ball. "Let's come. Quick, quick." With a glance round, she smiled at Tikhon, at her husband, and at the footman who accompanied them.
"Is that Mary practicing? Let's go quietly and take her by surprise."
Prince Andrew followed her with a courteous but sad expression.
"You've grown older, Tikhon," he said, as in passing to the old man who kissed his hand.
Tikhon?
He's the
valet.
Yeah.
Before they reached the room from which the sounds of the clavichord came, the pretty, fair-haired Frenchwoman, Mademoiselle Bourienne, rushed out, apparently beside herself with delight.
"Ah, what joy for the princess!" exclaimed she. "At last I must let her know."
"No, no, please not. You are Mademoiselle Bourienne," said the little princess, kissing her. "I know you already through my sisters-in-law of friendship for you. She was not expecting us?"
They went up to the door of the sitting room from which came the sound of the oft-repeated passage of the sonata. Prince Andrew stopped and made a grimace, as if expecting something unpleasant.
The little princess entered the room. Then Princess Mary's heavy tread and the sound of kissing. When Prince Andrew went in, the two princesses... Why do I keep saying princesses? Princesses. Princesses. Okay.
I don't say
princesses.
Princesses.
Yeah?
I would say that.
Princesses.
What's princesses?
I've said princess so many. Princess. I broke. Princesses, who had only met once before for a short time at his wedding, were in each other's arms, warmly pressing their lips to whatever place they happened to touch.
Oh my.
Mademoiselle Bourienne stood near them, pressing her hand to her heart, with a beatific smile and obviously equally ready to cry or to laugh. Prince Andrew shrugged his shoulders and frowned, as lovers of music do when they hear a false note. The two women let go of one another and then, as if afraid of being too late, seized each other's hands, kissing them and pulling them away, and began kissing each other on the face. And then, to Prince Andrew's surprise, both began to cry and kissed again. Mademoiselle Bourienne also began to cry. Prince Andrew evidently felt ill at ease. But to the two women, it seemed quite natural that they should cry, and apparently it never entered their heads that it could have been otherwise at this meeting. So dramatic!
He's also very redundant, though, I feel like.
Yeah, we're like, okay, and they're kissing, and they're hugging,
and then
they're crying,
and then they're like, "Oh, my dear," then suddenly exclaimed and then laughed. "I dreamed last night. You were not expecting us. Ah, Mary, you have gotten thinner, and you have grown stouter."
"I knew the princess at once," put in Mademoiselle Bourienne.
"And I had no idea," exclaimed Princess Mary. "Ah, Andrew, I did not see you."
Prince Andrew and his sister, hand in hand, kissed one another, and he told her she was still the same crybaby as ever. Princess Mary had turned toward her brother, and through her tears the loving, warm, gentle look of her large, luminous eyes, very beautiful at that moment, rested on Prince Andrew's face.
The little princess talked in "Why is everyone a princess?"
Everyone.
That girl comes out and is like, "Oh, the princess will be so excited." And she's like, "Oh, she didn't expect the princess?" And then the little princess ran in and kissed the other princess. Like, this is infuriating. And it's not helpful that because it's like a title, they like refer to each other as that.
Princess. Like, how do they know?
The little princess talked incessantly. This is not the one with
Right,
the
the
mole.
little princess.
But not with the one with the mole.
No, this, I believe, is Helen. And you're like, who is that? So Prince Andrew is the one who hates women.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's married to Helena, Helen, whatever we want to say.
Who is what?
Who I believe... Wait. Is she Prince Vasily's daughter?
Mabes.
I think so.
Mabes.
Okay.
Let's say that.
Okay, sure.
We're experts. The little princess talked incessantly, her short, downy upper lip continually and rapidly touching her rosy nether lip when necessary, and drawing up again next moment when her face broke into a smile of glittering teeth and sparkling eyes. She told of an accident they had had on the Spassky Hill, which might have been serious for her in her condition, and immediately after that informed them that she had left all her clothes in Petersburg and that heaven knew what she would have to dress in here, and that Andrew had quite changed, and that Kitty Odintsova had married an old man, and that there was a suitor for Mary, a real one, but that they would talk of that later. Princess Mary was still looking silently at her brother, and her beautiful eyes were full of love and sadness. It was plain that she was following a train of thought independent of her sister-in-law's words. In the midst of a description of the last Petersburg fete, she addressed her brother.
So you are really going to war, Andrew, she said, sighing.
Lisa sighed too.
Lisa.
I think Lisa is the
Mademoiselle
little
Bourienne?
princess. No, that's Bourienne.
No, that says like, wait, in the midst of the last Peter. I don't know, Lisa.
I think it's the little
Okay.
princess.
Maybe. Okay, let's go with that.
Dear gods.
Yes, and even tomorrow, replied her brother.
He's leaving me here. Gods knows. Oh, she doesn't say gods. God knows why, when he might have had promotion.
Princess Mary did not listen to the end, but continuing her train of thought, turned to her sister-in-law with a tender glance at her figure.
Is it certain?
The face of the little princess changed. She sighed and said, yes, quite certain. It is dreadful.
Her lip descended. She brought her face close to her sister-in-law's and unexpectedly, again, began to cry.
She needs rest, said Prince Andrew with a frown. Don't you, Lisa? Take her to your room, and I'll go to father. How is he? Just the same?
Yes, just the same. Though I don't know what your opinion will be, answered the princess joyfully.
And are the hours the same? And the walks in the avenues and the lathe? Asked Prince Andrew with a scarcely perceptible smile, which showed that, in spite of all his love and respect for his father, he was aware of his weaknesses.
The hours are the same, and the lathe, and also the mathematics and my geometry lessons, said Princess Mary gleefully, as if her lessons in geometry were among the greatest delights of her life.
She's alive.
To her brother?
Yes, ma'am. When the 20 minutes had elapsed and the time had come for the old prince to get up, Tikhon came to call the young prince to his father. The old man made a departure from his usual routine in honor of his son's arrival. He gave orders to admit him to his apartments while he dressed for dinner. The old prince always dressed in old-fashioned style, wearing an antique coat and powdered hair, and when Prince Andrew entered his father's dressing room, not with the contemptuous look and manner he wore in drawing rooms, but with the animated face with which he talked to Pierre, the old man was sitting on a large leather-covered chair wrapped in a powdering mantle, entrusting his head to Tikhon.
Ah, here's the warrior. Wants to vanquish Bonaparte, said the old man, shaking his powdered head as much as the tail, which Tikhon was holding fast to plate would allow.
You at least must tackle him properly, or else, if he goes on like this, he'll soon have us too, for his subjects. How are you? And he held out his cheek.
The old man was in a good temper after his nap before dinner. He used to say that a nap after dinner was silver, before dinner, golden. He cast happy sidelong glances at his son from under his thick, bushy eyebrows. Prince Andrew went up and kissed his father on the spot indicated to him. He made no reply on his father's favorite topic, making fun of the military men of the day, and more particularly of Bonaparte.
Yes, father, I've come to you and brought my wife, who is pregnant, said Prince Andrew, following every movement of his father's face with an eager and respectful look. How is your health?
Only fools and rakes fall ill, my boy. You know me, I am busy from morning till night and abstemious, so of course I am well.
Thank God, said his son, smiling.
Oh, God has nothing to do with it. Well, go on, he continued, returning to his hobby. Tell me how the Germans have taught you to fight Bonaparte by this new science you call strategy.
Prince Andrew smiled.
Give me time to collect my wits, father, said he, with a smile that showed that his father's foibles did not prevent his son from loving and honoring him. Why, I have not yet had time to settle down.
Nonsense, nonsense, cried the old man, shaking his pigtail to see whether it was firmly plaited, and grasping his by the hand. The house for your wife is ready. Princess Mary will take her there and show her over, and they'll talk 19 to the dozen. That's their women's way. I'm glad to have her. Sit down and talk. About Michelsen's army, I understand, Tolstoy's too, a simultaneous expedition. But what's the Southern army to do? Prussia is neutral, I know that. What about Austria? Said he, rising from his chair and pacing up and down the room, followed by Tikhon, who ran after him, handing him different articles of clothing. What of Sweden? How will they cross Pomerania?
Prince Andrew, seeing that his father insisted, began, at first reluctantly, but gradually with more and more animation, and from habit, changing unconsciously from Russian to French as he went on, to explain the plan of operation for the coming campaign. He explained how an army, 90,000 strong, was to threaten Prussia so as to bring her out of neutrality and draw her into the war. How part of that army was to join some Swedish forces at Stralsund, how 220,000 Austrians with 100,000 Russians were to operate in Italy and on the Rhine, how 50,000 Russians and as many English were to land from different sides. The old prince did not evince the least interest during this explanation, but, as if he were not listening to it, continued to dress while walking about, and 3 times unexpectedly interrupted. Once he stopped it by shouting, "The white one! The white one!"
This meant that Tikhon was not handing him the waistcoat he wanted. Another time he interrupted, saying,
"And will she soon be confined?" And shaking his head reproachfully said, "That's bad. Go on. Go on."
The third interruption came when Prince Andrew was finishing his description. The old man began to sing in the cracked voice of old age. Malbrook s'en va en guerre. Dieu sait quand reviendra.
Marlborough is going to the wars. God knows when he'll return. His son only smiled.
I don't say it's a plan I approve of, said the son. I'm only telling you what it is. Napoleon has also formed his plan by now. Not worse than this one.
Well, you've told me nothing new. And the old man repeated meditatively and rapidly,
Dieu sait quand reviendra. Go to the dining room.
God knows when he will return.
Yeah.
Oh, that was basically what I said the previous time.
Yeah, that's what he repeated.
I know, but for some reason I actually put my mind to translating it.
Okay.
Even though it had already been fracking translated.
I always get the R's
Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Revient. I find it very hard. I always have.
Yeah?
Yeah. Reviendra. Because you don't really roll your R's in French.
No.
But I want to. And then it becomes like phlegmy.
Why do you want to?
Because I feel like it would be easier. I don't know. Reviendra.
I think it does sound quite phlegmy. Not like when you do it, but I mean when I hear it in life.
Okay.
Phlegmy.
Phlegmy?
Yeah. At the appointed hour, the prince, powdered and shaven, entered the dining room where his daughter-in-law, Princess Mary, and Mademoiselle Bourrienne were already awaiting him together with his architect, who, by a strange caprice of his employers, was admitted to table, though the position of that insignificant individual was such as could certainly not have caused him to expect that honor. The prince, who generally kept very strictly to social distinctions and rarely admitted even important government officials to his table, had unexpectedly selected Michael Ivanovich, who always went into a corner to blow his nose on his checked handkerchief, to illustrate the theory that all men are equals, and had more than once impressed on his daughter that Michael Ivanovich was, quote, not a whit worse than you or I. At dinner, the prince usually spoke to the taciturn Michael Ivanovich more often than to anyone else.
In the dining room, which, like all the rooms in the house, was exceedingly lofty, the members of the household and the footmen, one behind each chair, stood waiting for the prince to enter. The head butler, napkin on arm, was scanning the setting of the table, making signs to the footmen, and anxiously glancing from the clock to the door by which the prince was to enter. Prince Andrew was looking at a large gilt frame, new to him, containing the genealogical tree of the Princes Bolkonsky, opposite which hung another such frame with a badly painted portrait, evidently by the hand of the artist belonging to the estate, of a ruling prince in a crown, an alleged descendant of Rurik, an ancestor of the Bolkonskys. Prince Andrew, looking again at that genealogical tree, shook his head, laughing as a man laughs who looks at a portrait so characteristic of the original as to be amusing.
How thoroughly like him that is, he said to Princess Mary, who had come up to him.
Princess Mary looked at her brother in surprise. She did not understand what he was laughing at. Everything her father did inspired her with reverence and was beyond question.
Everyone has his Achilles heel, continued Prince Andrew. Fancy with his powerful mind indulging in this nonsense.
Princess Mary could not understand the boldness of her brother's criticism, and was about to reply when the expected footsteps were heard coming from the study. The prince walked in quickly and jauntily, as was his wont, as if intentionally contrasting the briskness of his manners with the strict formality of his house. At that moment, too, a shrill tone joined in the drawing room. The prince stood still, his lively glittering eyes from under their thick, bushy eyebrows sternly scanned all present, and rested on the little princess. She felt, as courtiers do when the Tsar enters, the sensation of fear and respect which the old man inspired in all around him. He stroked her hair, and then patted her awkwardly on the back of her neck.
I'm glad to see you, he said, looking attentively into her eyes, and then quickly went to his place and sat down. Sit down, Michael Ivanovich?
I guess so. Yes.
Have I been saying his name wrong this whole time?
I thought it was Ivanovich, too.
Oh.
He indicated a place beside him to his daughter-in-law. A footman moved the chair for her.
Oh, said the old man, casting his eyes on her rounded figure. You've been in a hurry? That's bad.
He laughed in his usual dry, cold, unpleasant way, with his lips only, and not with his eyes.
Cool. You must walk. Walk as much as possible, he said.
The little princess did not, or did not wish to, hear his words. She was silent and seemed confused. The prince asked her about her father, and she began to smile and talk. He asked about mutual acquaintances, and she became still more animated and chattered away, giving him greetings from various people and retelling the town gossip.
Countess Apraxina, poor thing, has lost her husband, and she has cried her eyes out, she said, growing more and more lively.
As she became animated, the prince looked at her more and more sternly, and suddenly, as if he had studied her sufficiently and had formed a definite idea of her, he turned away and addressed Michael Ivanovich.
Typo. Well, Michael Ivanovich, our Bonaparte will be having a bad time of it. Prince Andrew, he always spoke thus of his son, has been telling me what forces are being collected against him, while you and I never thought much of him.
Michael Ivanovich did not at all know when you and I had said such things about Bonaparte, but understanding that he was wanted as a peg on which to hang the prince's favorite topic, he looked inquiringly at the young prince, wondering what would follow.
He's a great tactician, said the prince to his son, pointing to the architect.
And the conversation again turned on the war, on Bonaparte, and the generals and statesmen of the day. The old prince seemed convinced not only that all the men of the day were mere babies who did not know the ABC of war or of politics, and that Bonaparte was an insignificant little Frenchie, successful only because there were no longer any Potemkins or Suvorovs left to oppose him. But he was also convinced that there were no political difficulties in Europe and no real war, but only a sort of puppet show at which the men of the day were playing, pretending to do something real. Prince Andrew gaily ridiculed at the new men, and drew him on and listened to him with evident pleasure.
"The past always seems good," said he, "but did not Suvorov himself fall into a trap Moreau set him, and from which he did not know how to escape?"
"Who told you that?" "Who?" cried the prince. "Suvorov," and he jerked away his plate, which Tikhon briskly caught. "Suvorov. Consider, Prince Andrew. 2, Frederick and Suvorov. Moreau would have been a prisoner if Suvorov had had a free hand, but he had the Hofkriegswurstschnapsrath on his hands." "Yeah, he did. It would have puzzled the devil himself. When you get there, you'll find out that those Hofkriegswurstschnapsraths are." Suvorov couldn't manage them, so what chance is Michael Kutuzov? "No, my dear boy," he continued, "you and your generals won't get on against Bonaparte. You'll have to call in the French, so that birds of a feather may fight together. The German, Pahlen, has been sent to New York in America to fetch the Frenchman, Moreau," he said, alluding to the invitation made that year to Moreau to enter the Russian service. "Wonderful. Were the Potemkins, Suvorovs, and Orlovs Germans? No, lad, either you fellows have all lost your wits, or I have outlived mine. May God help you, but we'll see what will happen. Bonaparte has become a great commander among them."
"What do you mean you'll have to call in the French? How are they going to call in the French?"
"Call them in! Come! Enter!" "I don't know." "Yeah, I don't know." "So is Bonaparte... I don't know this war. Bonaparte is... Who are they fighting?"
We're dongles.
"It's the French Revolution, isn't it?"
We're dongles.
"What do you mean? Just in general? Because
Yes.
we don't know this?"
Totally. Totally.
For women.
That's because we're women. I don't think it has anything to do with the revolution. But maybe I'm completely wrong.
Oh my god.
I don't think it has anything to do with it. But what?
They're one and the same?
What?
I'm very stupid, apparently. Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah.
I just put that together. I thought they were different. And I was like,
Who's
who's Bonaparte?
different? You thought Bonaparte and Bonaparte were two different
No, I
people?
thought Bonaparte and Napoleon were two different people.
No, you didn't.
I did. I mean, like, since we started reading this book.
So this whole time you thought...
I was like, who are these two? I was like, who's Bonaparte? I'm serious.
So you thought that Napoleon had made no appearances in the book?
No, I thought he had, but I was like, are they working together? Are they working against each other? And I mean,
Wait,
maybe on some level they are.
How do you think, why are there two?
Because sometimes they talk to him about as Bonaparte, and sometimes it's like Buonaparte. And sometimes they refer to him as Napoleon.
That would be three people then.
No, I mean, I could figure.
I noticed the spelling thing as well, but...
Anyway.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. That was a special moment.
That's special.
I wonder if anyone's watching.
Right. Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay. I mean, no one calls him Bonaparte anymore.
Nobody calls him Bonaparte?
No.
But this is War and Peace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
I'm not going to defend myself.
this isn't right now.
I'm not going to defend myself. Okay, so the Russians are siding with the revolutionists in France, right?
To do with the French Revolution.
I think that's the war they're talking about. What is the war then?
Whenever Napoleon went all over the fucking globe eating everything. This is long before.
The French Revolutionary Wars. He was emperor of
I
the French.
so hope no one's watching.
I have no shame about not knowing this.
I mean, this is 1802. The French.
It's 1805.
The Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah. But so I'm assuming based on everything they've said that the French, are the Russians aligning with Napoleon?
No.
No, it's the opposite. Okay, that makes more sense.
We must destroy this. We must destroy this evidence.
I mean, you look much better than I do at this point.
Not certain about that. Well, this must be destroyed. I did say that I knew nothing about, what's it called? Yes, the French Revolution led up to Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right about that.
He's Italian. Napoleon.
What do you mean?
That's why his name is
Napoleon's French.
I think he's Italian too. Napoleon's father, Italian nobleman Carlo Buonaparte, was Corsica's representative to the court of Louis XVI.
Yes, Corsica, but
yeah, the French state. I don't know, but he was like. I'm just saying, like, his family's Italian, which is why sometimes it's written Buonaparte.
well, I don't feel like they should be switching spellings in the middle anyway. But
Okay. Yeah,
Unless
he
it's-
was born in
unless-
Corsica, which I actually don't know where that is. I should just stop saying the things I know.
we should quit.
Okay.
We should quit.
That's why we're reading the book, though. That's why we're doing this.
That's right. That is why we're.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh, I've gotten so hungry from that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Need to eat something?
All the time.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Okay.
We're ignoramuses.
Yeah, we are. Or at least I am.
Buffoons.
I'm trying to remember if I ever learned about
Doggles.
Napoleon in school.
You must have. They closed the border, by the way.
Is it firmly stuck? It's like it's just a closed door. Like, just try. Has anyone tried a key? Stuck.
You're the one stuck.
You said I'm stuck here. And I said, firmly stuck. That border.
I can't breathe. Oh, my stomach. You're quite firmly stuck.
Nah, I'll sneak in under the, I don't know, the air duct. Okay, wait.
Hard night.
Napoleon, upon ascending to the first consul of France in 1799, had inherited a chaotic republic. He consequently created a state with stable finances, a strong bureaucracy, and a well-trained army. In 1805, that's where we are, Austria and Russia started the Third Coalition and waged war against France.
Yeah.
In response, Napoleon defeated the Allied, spoiler,
from hundreds of years ago.
No, maybe people don't know, right? Such as us. Napoleon, okay, so this is about the Third Coalition. In response, Napoleon defeated the Allied Russo-Austrian army at Austerlitz. Yeah. I don't want to give it away.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just saying this is
the outcome of the Napoleonic Wars. You don't want to give away.
Who wins?
Oh my god. Okay. Okay.
Well, I don't know when they win. Obviously, this goes on till 1814.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%.
Okay, yeah.
I'm on board.
So Austria,
I'm on the deck of this sinking ship.
So it's like France and Napoleon is trying to take over Europe.
Everything, yeah.
Yep. And Austria and Russia have started a third coalition. And they're waging war against France. That's all we really need to know.
Which is why I was like, what do you mean?
Why do they need to call in the French?
That's like the most confusing sentence.
I don't know. Maybe it's like call in like all their expats. Maybe.
Before they stick the border?
Yeah.
Before they stick the border shut?
Yeah.
Before they glue the border? Before they super glue the Austrians out?
Yeah.
I mean the Russians?
Yeah.
Cool. I hope no one ever sees this. You?
I hope all the people who don't know history can finally come out of the closet and show their faces proudly.
I don't think they should be proud.
Or at least unashamedly.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Actually, yeah.
Shame. Shame. My dad's only called me an idiot once, but he like really meant it.
Really?
Yes.
What did you do?
He asked me
such a response.
He asked. I was like in high school or something. He asked me to guess how much this house cost, and I was like, I don't want to, because I am so stupid with numbers.
Okay.
I used to be even worse. Now, because of various things, I have like a much better sense. But this was before I had ever. Yeah. And I basically just started free associating numbers, and he like looked at me like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, you're an idiot." I was like, "I told you I didn't want to guess."
Oh my god! Is that why you're like, I don't understand economics?
Maybe,
or maybe it's before.
Maybe, but I told you. I mean, it wasn't like. He didn't.
No, it was like he bore into your soul. And he was like,
no, he didn't. But it was just the only time that in that moment, like he was actually kind of saying that.
Right.
Because normally my parents are like so like.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm not even going to pretend that wasn't the dumbest thing you've ever said. I'll tell you off.
$1,000. $2,000.
It was funnier but like you're not that far off.
Really?
I was like such a dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you, but I don't want to tell the whole world. The whole world is watching.
The whole world. Leo DiCaprio is watching this. He knows.
Also known as the whole
that.
world.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read a book.
Okay, fine.
Read the book. My nephew says that. Read the book. Read the book.
Read a book.
Read the book. Oh, yes, I remember this. I don't at all say that all the plans are good. We did that, right?
Okay.
No. Great commander among them.
Yeah.
I don't at all say that all the plans are good, said Prince Andrew. I am only surprised at your opinion of Bonaparte. You may laugh as much as you like, but all the same, Bonaparte is a great general.
Michael Ivanovich, cried the old prince to the architect, who, busy with his roast meat, hoped he had been forgotten. Didn't I tell you Bonaparte was a great tactician? Here, he says the same thing.
To be sure, your excellency, replied the architect.
The prince again laughed his frigid laugh. Oh my god. Can you laugh without your eyes?
Yeah, but it looks psychotic.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
Because it's psychotic.
It is, yeah. Bonaparte was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He has got splendid soldiers. Besides, he began by attacking Germans, and only idlers have failed to beat the Germans. Since the world began, everybody has beaten the Germans. They beat no one except one another. He made his reputation fighting them.
And the prince began explaining all the blunders which, according to him, Bonaparte had made in his campaigns and even in politics. His son made no rejoinder, but it was evident that whatever arguments were presented, he was as little able as his father to change his opinion. He listened, refraining from a reply, and involuntarily wondered how this old man, living alone in the country for so many years, could know and discuss so minutely and acutely all the recent European military and political events.
I read minds. But it troubles me. I don't sleep at night. Come now, where has this great commander of yours shown his skill? He concluded.
That would take too long to tell, answered the son.
Well then, go to your Bonaparte. Mademoiselle Bourrienne, here's another admirer of that powder monkey emperor of yours, he exclaimed in excellent French.
Also, everyone's speaking French, and they're fighting against the French? Okay. Or are they fighting, like the monarchy is dissolved in France, yes? Yeah, okay. You know, Prince, I am not a Bonapartist.
Dieu sait quand reviendra, hummed the prince out of tune, and with a laugh still more so, he quitted the table. Quitted?
Mm-hmm.
Not quit?
No, he quitted.
He quit the table. He quitted it. Quitted it. He quitted it.
He quitted.
Quat.
He quat that table. The little princess, during the whole discussion and the rest of the dinner, sat silent, glancing with a frightened look now at her father-in-law and now at Princess Mary. When they left the table, she took her sister-in-law's arm and drew her into another room.
What a clever man your father is, said she. Perhaps that is why I am afraid of him.
Oh, he is so kind, answered Princess Mary.
What the fuck, Mary?
I thought she was terrified of him.
She's totally disingenuous.
Yeah. His yellowy teeth.
She's duplicitous. She's like traumatized by their mornings together. She's like, I hope I get it right.
He's very kind. He's very clever. Oh, wait. I just need to charge. I need to get the plug.
For what?
Computer.
Oh, the computer. Oh, 1%. No, 17%? That's not 1%. It wouldn't stay on. It wouldn't stay on. This wouldn't stand.
He's so wise. They really respect their elders, you know?
They're like, they know stuff and we don't know nothing.
Okay. I think this is the last chapter of the book.
Yeah?
I think.
Oh, closing in on the end of book 1.
Oh, exciting.
Ready?
Wait. I lost my place.
Well, we're in different places because we got the different books.
Okay. Chapter 28.
Mm-hmm.
Prince Andrew was to leave next evening. The old prince, not altering his routine, retired as usual after dinner. The little princess was in her sister-in-law's room. Prince Andrew, in a traveling coat without epaulettes, had been packing with his valet in the rooms assigned to him. After inspecting the carriage himself and seeing the trunks put in, he ordered the horses to be harnessed. Only those things he always kept with him remained in his room. A small box, a large canteen fitted with silver plate, 2 Turkish pistols, and a saber, a present from his father, who had brought it from the siege of Okakov. All these traveling effects of Prince Andrew's were in very good order, new, clean, and in cloth covers carefully tied with tapes.
When starting on a journey or changing their mode of life, men capable of reflection are generally in a serious frame of mind. At such a moment, one reviews the past and plans for the future. He's waxing philosophical here. This is a bit of a departure. Prince Andrew's face looked very thoughtful and tender, with his hands behind him and paced briskly from corner to corner of the room, looking straight before him and thoughtfully shaking his head. Did he fear going to the war? Or was he sad at leaving his wife? Yeah, right. He hates his wife.
Maybe he just said that. Maybe he said it because
He's always
he
like,
can't let her in.
if I played Prince Andrew,
I think that's how we should be played.
perhaps both.
But only around her. I think, but
Yeah.
then apparently around his
He's
father,
like really like lively and normal, and then she comes in and he's like, perhaps both. But evidently he did not wish to be seen in that mood, for hearing footsteps in the passage, he hurriedly unclasped his hands, stopped at a table, as if tying the cover of the small box, and assumed his usual tranquil and impenetrable expression. It was the heavy tread of Princess Mary that he heard.
such a heavy tread.
Just like always calling. He's like always calling women out for things. That's so unnecessary.
Maybe it's a good thing in Russia. What a heavy tread you have, my dear.
Also, he went through a really ridiculous description of Mary not being beautiful and not being beautiful and not being beautiful and not being beautiful. And then he was like, and then sometimes in some moments when she's not thinking about herself and all the shitty things in the world, her eyes are unspeakably beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's beautiful.
Apparently not.
Like, it's not, what do you mean that, speaking of her eyes as an exception to her face?
But it's, I don't know. It's that she's plain. Her features are plain. But only sometimes.
He goes quite further than that. He's like thin and
pasty with red patches.
Patches.
I know what their skin is like.
Like gloves.
I don't think so.
I don't.
Probably rough.
Rough.
Ugh. Were they exfoliating back then?
Probably with like gravel.
Imagine them just like picking up dirt.
Yeah, I can.
They must have. And everyone was quite smelly, right? Back then? That's what they say.
Yes. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Okay.
Where are we?
I hear you have given.
I hear you have given orders to harness, she cried, panting. She had apparently been running. And I did so wish to have another talk with you alone. God knows how long we may again be parted. You are not angry with me for coming. You have changed so, Andrusha, she added, as if to explain such a question.
She smiled as she uttered his pet name, Andrusha. It was obviously strange to her to think that this stern, handsome man should be Andrusha, the slender, mischievous boy who had been her playfellow in childhood.
Where is Lisa? He asked, answering her question only by a smile.
She was so tired that she's fallen asleep on the sofa in my room. Oh, Andrew, what a treasure of a wife you have, said she, sitting down on the sofa facing her brother. She's quite a child, such a dear, merry child. I have grown so fond of her.
Prince Andrew was silent, but the princess noticed the ironical and contemptuous look that showed itself on his face.
Yeah. One must be indulgent to little weaknesses. Who is free from them, Andrew? Don't forget that she has grown up and been educated in society, and so her position now is not a rosy one. We should enter into everyone's situation. Tout comprendre, c'est tout pardonner.
To understand everything is to pardon.
Think what it must be for her, poor thing, after what she's been used to be parted from her husband and be left alone in the country. In her condition, it's very hard.
Prince Andrew smiled as he looked at his sister, as we smile at those we think we thoroughly understand.
You live in the country and don't think life is terrible, he replied.
That's different. Why speak of me? I don't want any other life, and can't, for I know no other. But think, Andrew, for a young society woman to be buried in the country during the best years of her life, all alone, for Papa is always busy, and well, you know what poor resources I have for entertaining a woman used to the best society. There is only Mademoiselle Bourrienne.
I don't like your Mademoiselle Bourrienne at all, said Prince Andrew.
No? She's very nice and kind, and above all, she's much to be pitied. So
you don't like that?
You don't like that? She has no one. To tell the truth, I don't need her, and she's even in my way.
Oh my God.
You know, I always was a savage, and now I'm even more so. I like being alone. Oh, like a savage. I like being alone. Father likes her very much, and are the two people because he has been a benefactor to them both. As Sterne says, we don't love people so much for the good they have done us, as for the good we have done them. Father took her when she was homeless after losing her own father. I actually think that's true. I think there's something in that. Anyway. She is very good-natured, and my father likes her way of reading. She reads to him in the evenings and reads splendidly.
No.
Splendid.
No. Evening readings. You think there's something to that?
Yeah. You know how they're like, oh, if you want to make a friend, ask them for a favor?
No.
That's it.
Cool.
Yes. Because it's like then, they might not do it, but then like having done like an act of goodwill, I think that like carries over towards the feeling for the other person.
I don't know. I don't disbelieve it.
Mm-hmm.
To be quite frank, Mary, I expect Father's character sometimes makes things trying for you, doesn't it? Prince Andrew asked suddenly.
Princess Mary was first surprised and then aghast at this question.
For me? For me? Trying for me? She said.
He always was rather harsh, and now I should think he's getting very trying, said Prince Andrew, apparently speaking lightly of their father in order to puzzle or test his sister.
You are good in every way, Andrew, but you have a kind of intellectual pride, said the princess, following the train of her own thoughts rather than the trend of the conversation. And that's a great sin. How can one judge Father? But even if one might, what feeling except veneration could such a man as my father evoke? And I am so contented and happy with him. I only wish you were as happy as I am.
Her brother shook his head incredulously.
The only thing that is hard for me, I will tell you the truth, Andrew, is Father's way of treating religious subjects. I don't understand how a man of his immense intellect can fail to see what is as clear as day and can go so far astray. That is the only thing that makes me unhappy. But even in this, I can see lately a shade of improvement. His satire has been less bitter of late, and there was a monk he received and had a long talk with.
Ah, my dear, I am afraid you and your monk are wasting your powder, said Prince Andrew banteringly, yet tenderly.
Ah, mon ami, I only pray and hope that God will hear me. Andrew, she said timidly after a moment's silence, I have a great favor to ask of you.
What is it, dear?
No, promise that you will not refuse. It will give you no trouble and is nothing unworthy of you, but it will comfort me. Promise, Andrusha, said she, putting her hand in her reticule but not yet taking out what she was holding inside it, as if what she held were the subject of her request and must not be shown before the request was granted.
She looked timidly at her brother.
Even if it were a great deal of trouble, answered Prince Andrew, as if guessing what it was about.
Think what you please. I know you are just like father. Think as you please, but do this for my sake. Please do. Father's father, our grandfather, wore it in all his wars. She did not take out what she was holding in her reticule. So you promise?
Of course. What is it?
Andrew, I bless you with this icon, and you must promise me you will never take it off. Do you promise?
If it does not weigh 100 weight and won't break my neck, to please you, said Prince Andrew, but immediately, noticing the pained expression his joke had brought to his sister's face, he repented and added, I am glad, really, dear, I am very glad.
Against your will he will save, and have mercy on you and bring you to himself. For in him alone is truth and peace, said she in a voice trembling with emotion, solemnly holding up in both hands before her brother a small, oval, antique, dark-faced icon of the Savior in a gold setting on a finely wrought silver chain.
She crossed herself, kissed the icon, and handed it to Andrew.
Please, Andrew, for my sake.
Rays of gentle likely face and made it beautiful.
Ah, those eyes.
Her brother would have taken the icon, but she stopped him. Andrew understood, crossed himself, and kissed the icon. There was a look of tenderness, for he was touched, but also a gleam of irony on his face.
Thank you, my dear. She kissed him on the forehead and sat down again on the sofa. They were silent for a while.
As I was saying to you, Andrew, be kind and generous, as you always used to be. Don't judge Lisa harshly, she began. She is so sweet, so good-natured, and her position now is a very hard one.
I do not think I have complained of my wife to you, Masha, or blamed her. Why do you say all this to me?
Red patches appeared on Princess Mary's face, and she was silent, as if she felt guilty.
I have said nothing to you. You have already been talked to, and I am sorry for that, he went on.
The patches grew deeper on her forehead, neck, and cheeks. She tried to say something, but could not. Her brother had guessed right. The little princess had been crying after dinner and had spoken of her forebodings about her confinement and how she dreaded it, and had complained of her fate, her father-in-law, and her husband. After crying, she had fallen asleep. Prince Andrew felt sorry for his sister.
Know this, Masha, I can't reproach, have not reproached, and never shall reproach my wife with anything. And I cannot reproach myself with anything in regard to her. And that always will be so in whatever circumstance I may be placed. If you want to know the truth, if you want to know whether I am happy, no. She is happy? No. But why this is so, I don't know.
As he said this, he rose, went to his sister, and stooping, kissed her forehead. His fine eyes lit up with a thoughtful, kindly, and unaccustomed brightness, but he was looking not at his sister, but over her head toward the darkness of the open doorway.
Let us go to her. I must say goodbye. Or go and wake, and I'll come in a moment. Petrushka, he called to his valet. Come here, take these away. Put this on the seat, and this to the right.
Princess Mary rose and moved to the door, then stopped and said, Andrew, if you had faith, you would have turned to God and asked him to give you the love you do not feel, and your prayer would have been answered.
Well, maybe, said Prince Andrew. Go, Masha. I'll come immediately.
On the way to his sister's room in the passage which connected one wing with the other, Prince Andrew met Mademoiselle Bourrienne, smiling sweetly. It was the third time that day that, with an ecstatic and artless smile, she had met him in secluded passages.
Oh, I thought you were in your room, she said, for some reason blushing and dropping her eyes.
Prince Andrew looked sternly at her, and an expression of anger suddenly came over his face. He said nothing to her, but looked at her forehead and hair without looking at her eyes, with such contempt that the Frenchwoman blushed and went away without a word. Cool. When he reached his sister's room, his wife was already awake, and her merry voice, hurrying one word after another, came through the open door. She was speaking, as usual, in French, and as if after long self-restraint, she wished to make up for lost time.
No, but imagine the old Countess Zubova with false curls and her mouth full of false teeth, as if she would try to cheat old age. Ha ha ha! Mary!
Mary? Oh God. This very sentence about Countess Zubova and this same laugh Prince Andrew had already heard from his wife in the presence of others some 5 times. He entered the room softly. The little princess, plump and rosy, was sitting in an easy chair with her work in her hands, talking incessantly, repeating Petersburg reminiscences and even phrases. Prince Andrew came up, stroked her hair, and asked if she felt rested after their journey. She answered him and continued her chatter.
The coach with 6 horses was waiting at the porch. It was an autumn night, so dark that the coachman could not see the carriage pole. Servants with lanterns were bustling about in the porch. The immense house was brilliant with light shining through its lofty windows. The domestic serfs were crowding in the hall, waiting to bid goodbye to the young prince. The members of the household were all gathered in the reception hall. Michael Ivanovich, Mademoiselle Bourrienne, Princess Mary, and the little princess. Prince Andrew had been called to his father's study as the latter wished to say goodbye to him alone. All were waiting for them to come out.
When Prince Andrew entered the study, the old man, in his old-age spectacles and white dressing-gown, in which he received no one but his son, sat at the table writing. It's his son outfit? That's his outfit that he wears.
Just for his son.
I don't know if it's... Shit. He glanced around.
Going? And he went on writing.
I've come to say goodbye.
Kiss me here. And he touched his cheek. Thanks.
What do you thank me for?
For not dilly-dallying and not hanging to a woman's apron strings. The service before everything. Thanks. And he went on writing so that his quill spluttered and squeaked. If you have anything to say, say it. These 2 things can be done together, he added.
About my wife, I'm ashamed, as it is, to leave her on your hands.
Why talk nonsense? Say what you want.
When her confinement is due, send to Moscow for an accoucheur. Let him be here.
The old prince stopped writing and, as if not understanding, fixed his stern eyes on his son.
I know that no one can help if nature does not do her work, said Prince Andrew, evidently confused. I know that out of 1,000,000 cases only one goes wrong, but it is her fancy and mine. They have been telling her things. She's had a dream and is frightened.
Muttered the old prince to himself, finishing what he was writing. I'll do it.
He signed with a flourish and suddenly, turning to his son, began to laugh.
It's a bad business, eh?
What is bad, father?
Oh, wife, said the old prince, briefly and significantly.
I don't understand, said Prince Andrew.
No, it can't be helped, lad, said the prince. They're all like that. One can't unmarry. Don't be afraid. I won't tell anyone. But you know it yourself.
He seized his son by the hand with small bony fingers, shook it, looked straight into his son's face with keen eyes which seemed to see through him, and again laughed his frigid laugh. I like that you feel obligated to
I know,
laugh.
like, just in case people need an audible cue for it. Yeah.
Oh my god. That made me feel horrible in my spirit.
The son sighed, thus admitting that his father had understood him. The old man continued to fold and seal his letter, snatching up and throwing down the wax, the seal, the paper, in his accustomed rapidity.
What's to be done? She's pretty. I will do everything. Make your mind easy. said he in abrupt sentences while sealing his letter.
Andrew did not speak. He was both pleased and displeased that his father understood him. The old man got up and gave the letter to his son.
Listen, said he. Don't worry about your wife. What can be done shall be. Now listen. Give this letter to Michael Ilarionovich.
Mm-hmm.
I have written that he should make use of you in proper places and not keep you long in as an adjutant. A bad position. Tell him I remember and like him. Write and tell me how he receives you. If he is all right, serve him. Nicholas Bolkonsky's son need not serve under anyone if he is in disfavor. Now come here.
He spoke so rapidly that he did not finish half his words. But his son was accustomed to understand him. He led him to the desk, raised the lid, drew out a drawer, and took out an exercise book filled with his bold, tall, close handwriting.
I shall probably die before you. So remember, these are my memoirs. Hand them to the emperor after my death. Now here is a Lombard bond and a letter. It is a premium for the man who writes a history of Suvorov's wars. Send it to the academy. Here are some jottings for you to read when I am gone. You will find them useful.
Andrew did not tell his father that he would no doubt live a long time yet. He felt that he must not say it.
I will do it all, father, he said.
Well now, goodbye. He gave his son his hand to kiss and embraced him. Remember this, Prince Andrew. If they kill you, it will hurt me, your old father. He paused unexpectedly, and then in a querulous voice suddenly shrieked, But if I hear that you have not behaved like a son of Nicholas Bolkonsky, I shall be ashamed.
You need not have said that to me, father, said his son with a smile.
The old man was silent.
I also wanted to ask you, continued Prince Andrew, if I'm killed and if I have a son, do not let him be taken away from you. As I said yesterday, let him grow up with you, please.
Not let the wife have him, said the old man, and laughed.
They stood silent, facing one another. The old man's sharp eyes were fixed straight on his son's. Something twitched in the lower part of the old prince's face.
He said goodbye. Go! He suddenly shouted in a loud, angry voice, opening his door.
What is it? What? Asked the man in the white dressing gown, spectacled and wigless, shouting in an angry voice.
Prince Andrew sighed and made no reply.
Well, he said, turning to his wife.
And this well sounded coldly ironic, as if you were saying, now go through your performance.
Andrew, already, said the little princess, turning pale and looking with dismay at her husband.
He embraced her. She screamed and fell unconscious on his shoulder.
He cautiously released the shoulder she leaned on, looked into her face, and carefully placed her in an easy chair.
But you married, said he gently to his sister, taking her by the hand and kissing her. And then he left the room with rapid steps.
The little princess lay in the armchair, Mademoiselle Bourrienne chafing her temples. Princess Mary, supporting her sister-in-law, still looked with her beautiful eyes full of tears at the door through which Prince Andrew had gone, and made the sign of the cross in his direction. From the study, like pistol shots, came the frequent sound of the old man angrily blowing his nose. Hardly had Prince Andrew gone when the study door opened quickly, and the stern figure of the old man in the white dressing gown looked out.
Gone? That's all right, said he, and looking angrily at the unconscious little princess, he shook his head reprovingly and slammed the door.
End of book 1.
End. Thoughts?
I think we're inching ever closer to war.
Yeah, I think book 2 we better be there. That's what I suspect.
I mean, in a book that has 15 books in it, I think.
No, I think it's all going to be parties and funerals.
Well, like the first book was parties, basically.
Yeah.
I guess you have to kind of establish what life is like before.
Yeah, right.
Before something happens.
You have to like establish the normal world.
Right.
And then they depart into...
Who knows?
Heroes... Call to action. What's it called?
Hero's Journey.
Yes.
I kind of wonder what this book could be about. How much fighting can you do?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's battles in this.
I mean, I feel like there will be.
Do you like battle scenes?
No, not really.
I find them really confusing because I have to imagine it, and it's really hard.
It's easy to wander off and just like be like, result.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like scuttle.
I sort of feel like that about a lot of action sequences in movies and stuff. I'm like, okay, stuff happens and then.
Me too, and I'm fascinated by people who are like, oh, did you see that? Like, who get like really into the action sequence.
Me too. It's almost like getting really into a commercial.
I don't know if it's because like that they're like there in the moment, they're like feeling it viscerally, like, yeah, oh, so amazing.
You know, my nephew likes trucks. And there's something that I think is very interesting about the fact that he endlessly can engage with and line up and talk about and think about and trucks. It's like he loves them. So I think some people just like are extremely into inanimate objects. Because that's the weird bit for me. I'm like, none of these things are alive. So like they're static. Obviously they're not static like.
What does he like about them?
I've been trying to figure this out for literally.
Does he even like know that they go fast?
Yes.
Like, he does.
Yeah. He'll be like,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Or they don't think.
And like I told you now, he's like really into like.
Oh yeah, putting things in other places.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been big on moving things around, but.
Yeah, I was never like that.
Like in a way that's like. He's like. And then just like anytime there's a strange. Like it's so strongly initiated by him. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah. So
it's made me be like, wow, people interact with things in ways that like personally are really, because I'm like, this is so boring. It's so boring. And for him, it's endless. So I think that people who feel differently about objects might feel differently about like car chases.
Yeah, and action sequences.
Because to me, I'm a little bit like, nothing's happening.
Right. So for you, what is something happening?
Like interpersonal stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Get to the scene. Yeah. Get to them talking about their feelings.
Get to the party scenes.
I just watched Rear View Window.
Rear window?
Or Rear View. Yeah, that's what I mean. Rear.
You're putting view in it for some reason.
Rear. It's just a rear window.
The Hitchcock thing?
Yeah. Right.
I quite like it.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I was surprised how much was just like interpersonal talking scenes. I'm surprised. Pleasantly.
What did you think it was going to be?
I knew it was like a murder mystery, so I was like, well, how much of this is? I was just like pleasantly surprised, like how suspenseful it was, but it's also very static, you know, because you're mostly just staying with Jimmy Stewart and he's chair-ridden.
I mean, that's
the whole point. Yeah.
No, I mean that's part of like I think that's very Hitchcock also. Like he had this show that was like the Hitchcock Hour. So for some reason I can't remember what it was called. There was some generic title that was like Alfred Hitchcock's like weirdo stories for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember distinctly one where this guy gets in a car accident and he's like there and can't move, but you can still hear him talking, like thinking. And basically he gets, like they think he's dead. So like he gets carted away. Basically it's a completely still person.
Yeah.
That's why it reminded me of the stillness, but the like tension in stillness, stuff like that, I think is very, he's one of the only people that like, I'm very aware of his hand.
Oh, of his touch to the material. Yeah.
And maybe it's because it's like long ago and it was unlike the other things that were made at the time, but for some reason I'm like, I think he's really easy to pick up. Whereas I don't think I could say that for like a lot of other filmmakers and stuff.
I don't know if it's because like he influenced so many, so now like a lot of people are kind of derivatives of him.
Probably. It's probably really difficult to track his.
But he must have been influenced by other people. I don't know also like how much of that was just limitations actually. Because when you think of like what people can do now in terms of an action sequence, it's massive.
Yeah, but you still have to think into it, right? Like there's still a void that you then have to like just out of nowhere perceive something that's never happened then, or like perceive something that creates something that's never been.
Actually, so the scene where what's his name? I just watched it.
I don't remember his name.
What's the murderer's name?
I don't remember the names in that at all.
Anyway, when the guy finally comes to the apartment, do you remember that? And then he's like coming at him. It's dark, and then his weapon is a camera, and he just starts like flashing lights, and it stops him, and it stops him, and it stops him. For some reason, that reminded me of the scene in Silence of the Lambs when she can't see.
Yeah.
And I liked that like the most dramatic moment. There's no violence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just him coming in.
It's tension. Yeah, that's his like
trying to blind him. Yeah.
Which is like his classic butter, right?
Yeah.
Tension. Yeah, he's very good at it. He's very good at it. We're totally off topic.
Are we going to continue? It's book 2?
How long have we been? I'm hungry.
I know. We're not going to stream this late from now on.
Because it's always din time.
I know.
And then I end up eating at dinner at like 9 something. I end up as if we've been doing this for 100 years. This always happens.
C'est taboo. Could be a short one. And then we could start fresh. Book 2.
Oh, damn. It was a free sound bath that I signed up for that was at 8 p.m.
Oh, that would have been nice.
Yeah. I sign up for lots of things that seem nice. And then
you do not go.
I do not. I feel like everyone has to write a response to COVID-19, no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten emails from every entity that I have ever engaged with, even ones that I'm like, what could you possibly have to say about this?
Like what? What's the most?
Coursera. What is Coursera?
They're probably like, ka-ching!
I know!
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's like retailers.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
Anthropology and Urban Outfitters. I'm like,
thanks,
what?
guys.
What?
Yeah, look. What do I have?
I got one thing that's like, I know this is really hard. We're having a sale, which at least was an event. At least it was a retail event, because otherwise you're just getting.
Yeah, I have like, Fenty, like Rihanna's.
Yeah.
brighten up your mood. Ready for a little you time.
But at least that's like, there's some content there. They're attempting content.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just the like, hey guys. Yeah.
No, I know.
Stuff that I don't feel like is... I guess everyone feels the need to address what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like, just so you know, we're part of the conversation too. We're doing something too.
And like, don't be scared of us too.
Kind of. And I do think there's a lot of that. It's maybe that has to do with what's happening to people's money.
I don't even
But they're
know.
like, hey, shop.
That's the other thing I don't understand. If people are going on buying frenzies, this is an economics thing that I should shut my mouth. I know that has nothing to do with the stock market, but it kind of seems like the economy should be juiced in some way by people's frenzied purchasing, but I don't know how it's not significant enough to like actually make any kind of impression. I'm also getting messages from things that I don't even know what they are. Who's Sid the cat?
I don't know.
To our friends and fans, I don't even know who you are.
You're friends with Sid the cat.
We appreciate your support of Sid the cat and live music. We've enjoyed and cherished all the amazing shows this year. I wasn't at these shows. I'm so hungry.
Okay. We're going to call this.
Oh.
Hmm?
Yeah, let's call it.
Okay. We're going to call it. So from now on, if anyone's watching, we're doing this at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific.
Yeah. If y'all are in the East Coast or the Mountain Coast or the Chicago Coast, it'll be different. Look up your coast.
On all those coasts.
Okay. And we'll start book 2.
And forgive us for being here.
And maybe I'll do some research on the Napoleonic Wars before then. Maybe.
Maybe we
Maybe.
might know more,
Well,
but also it's possible that we might not.
we might know less.
It seems possible. Although I think the shame of this has like really, I'm going to have them forever.
I think so too. I think I will never, ever forget that Napoleon's last name was Bonaparte.
Well, that's certainly.
Oh my god. Let's start it off before we...